Hello and welcome to Talk of the Town. I'm your host, Jessa Jeremiah, and I'm excited about today's show. We're going to learn a lot. Later in the show, we're going to be talking a little bit about CrossFit. We're also going to be talking about physical therapy and some of the healthcare implications that are affecting our country today. Right now, we're going to learn a little bit about a fabulous walking tour that is coming up very soon. And joining us to share some of the information is Terry Venker with Madison Trust for Historic Preservation. And I want to thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, this is a really exciting topic for me because I didn't know that this was available. Now, we're talking about the Maple Bluff Historic Architecture Tour. Share with us what that is.
Sure. So this Sunday, July 16th, will be the Maple Bluff Cambridge Road Architecture Historic Walking Tour. And we will be outside walking. It's about a third of a mile on that street. And we'll be looking at the exteriors of about 10 homes, and we'll be talking about the architecture and the history of the people who built them, and there's just a lot of fascinating stories.
Wow, okay, so this tour, just if you're interested in learning a little bit about this now, is Sunday, July 16th, and there's a lot, I think, that you could highlight that's special about this, but share some of the things with us.
Well, we're only offering this one day. And it's the first time the Madison Trust is offering a tour in Maple Bluff. So it's really a unique opportunity. And I think as there's more and more development in Madison and in the suburbs, people have a greater appreciation for some of these historic areas. So people will learn about architecture and the history of the people and some of the fortunes that built some of the beautiful homes.
Wow, what a fun thing to look back and see. And that's a really good point, that there is so much development and change that it is sometimes tough to take a look back and remember some of that history that created some of the wonderful neighborhoods and things that we get to see. So let's dive in a little bit and talk about what people can expect to see.
Sure. So just on that one street, there are a lot of different architectural styles. Colonial revival, prairie, Tudor, Georgian revival, early colonial with shingle style, something called French eclectic. I mean, there's so many different types, and each one is interesting. And a specific example would be, we'll be looking closely at the governor's mansion, which is technically known as the executive residence of Wisconsin. Many people don't even know where that home is, but we'll be looking at the architect Frank Riley, who is probably Madison's most prominent architect, the Johnson family who built the home in the 1920s, and then share some stories about how it eventually became the official residence for the governors of Wisconsin. And each one of those segments is a fascinating story in itself.
Oh my goodness. Well,
that's just one house.
The more that you learn, I imagine, the more interested you become. And all these stories throughout this tour, do you have a favorite yourself?
Well, I have a lot of favorites, but one story that I think people would not be that familiar with is, Maple Bluff is a beautiful area, leafy green streets, quiet, beautiful homes, a highly desirable area. But for a long time, it was an area that was considered rural and isolated, and they didn't have an easy time selling the lots there. When they first started to develop it, that area was at a time when most people didn't own horses, there weren't a lot of cars, and everybody had to walk every place. And there weren't apartments for people to live in, there weren't stores. And so initially it was kind of a tough sell to move the lots.
Wow, what a fascinating story, and one of just many, I'm sure, that you can learn. Again, this is Cambridge Road in Maple Bluff, and I want to make sure that we touch on, before we go, a little bit more information about when the tour is, because there are several different times that this starts, and some of them are already sold out.
Right, so we will be offering tours every half hour from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. on Sunday, July 16th. The last tour leaves at 2 p.m. And you can go on the website, madisonpreservation.org, and sign up. It is a fundraiser for the Madison Trust, so there is a charge. And you can pick the time you want to be on. The 10 o'clock and the 10:30 morning tours are already sold out. So we'd encourage people to go online and buy your tickets ahead of time.
Oh, wow, what a fun thing to be a part of. So if you want to get interested and do that tour, go ahead and get to that website and pick a time. So thank you so much for sharing. What a
Thank
fascinating
you.
discussion. I appreciate it. Terry Venker with Madison Trust for Historic Preservation. We're going to be back. We've got more Talk of the Town coming up right after the break.